Greetings to C3RF members and friends across Canada, indeed around the world, and a big welcome to the folks at Veterans for Freedom as they view this in-hot session on their dedicated streaming channels. This is a very special session of In-Hot as we welcome the leader of the People's Party of Canada, Max Bernier. He's here to discuss just what Trump's recent re-election to the Oval Office south of the border means for Canada. By way of introduction, which really isn't required, Max served as a very high-profile Conservative Party of Canada member from 2006 to 2017 as the nation's Minister of Industry, from 2006 to 2007, the Foreign Minister over the 2007-2008 time period, and then Minister of Small Business and Tourism from 2011 to 2015. Things got really heated thereafter as he lost a leadership bid to Andrew Scheer in 2017, and then ran afoul of Conservative Party policies in the areas of agricultural supply management, tariffs, and multiculturalism. Accordingly, he was summarily turfed from the shadow cabinet before leaving the Conservative Party and founding the People's Party of Canada in 2018. Two federal elections later, he has tripled the PPC's electoral support and distinguished himself as a staunch proponent of individual rights and freedoms over the Wuhan virus pandemic period, even going to jail for doing so. He is the bane of Canadian legacy media, and like Donald Trump south of the border, he is derided as a far-right extremist for his populist, Canada-first political beliefs. How appropriate, then, to have Max here with us to discuss what Trump's success means for Canada and the PPC in particular. And the first question, Max, welcome aboard. It's good to see you after a couple of years away from In-Hot. But my first question is, were you surprised by Trump's win south of the border?
Russ, I'm very pleased to be with you, and I want to thank you also for having me on your show and giving me that opportunity to speak to your viewers. So, answering your question, I was not so surprised because, I wanted him to be able to win that. And I was not so surprised because, it's all about the economy. And in the US, in Canada, it's not going well right now. The inflation is very high. And all that woke ideology, trying to tell people that there's more than two sexes, all that, it is not based on our values, Western civilization values. So Trump was the only one who was speaking about the real common sense and fighting inflation and offering a very different option for Americans. So I was very happy. I was a little bit surprised that he had a big majority like that. He was able to win all the 7 swing states. That was great. Plus also the popular vote. It's a big win. It's a nice win, and he will have all the opportunity starting in January to implement its platform. And answering also, Russ, the other part of your question about what is the impact for a Trump administration here in Canada, I believe that it is a positive impact, a very positive one. Why? Trump is fighting against, for example, he will withdraw from the Paris Accord. We are saying the same thing here. It's our position. We are the only party that is saying our position is to withdraw from the Paris Accord. There's no climate emergency. So Trump, he believes in the same in the US. Same thing with the radical gender ideology. He said that there's only two sexes, and all that woke, indoctrination in our schools must end. And we are sharing that point of view also. But when he will implement these policies in the US, that will have an impact here in Canada because, as you may know, Russ, I'm right now canceled by the mainstream media. They don't want to speak about our policies. They don't want to cover us or give us some visibility because they know that we will be able to grow faster. And so they're not real journalists. They are leftists, and they think that they are journalists, but they are not. So the fact that Trump won and he will implement these policies, they will have to speak about it in our mainstream media. they will have to cover it and tell us. So our policies will be a little bit more, we will have more discussion in the mainstream media, and that will be great. So, and same thing for the war in Ukraine. As you know, we are the only party that said, since the beginning of that war, that we must not participate in that. It's a proxy war between the US and Russia. Russia is not our enemy. Actually, our enemy is our own federal government. So we are for peace and prosperity, but the conservative, the liberals, the NDP, the Bloc Québécois, the Green, they are all for that war in Ukraine. So Trump said that he will end that war. So that's great. And I believe he will do it, because under his first term, he didn't start any new wars. And that's great. And he understands that people want to have peace and they don't want the US to participate in all these wars. So that's another good news. But I must add, maybe the bad news or the bad impact on us, it may be on immigration. As Trump is ready to finish the war. He will end mass immigration. He will deport the illegals. So
Yes.
I'm in agreement with that. We are sharing that. Our position on immigration is the moratorium on immigration, deportation of the illegals. But that policy in the US may have an impact for us here in Canada, because if you are an illegal in US and Trump will be the president in January, maybe you don't want to be deported. Maybe you will walk to the north and go to Canada. And as you know, Trudeau tweeted 6 years ago that everybody is welcome here. So maybe we'll have a lot of migrants that will cross our border because they won't want to be deported. And so we need to be vigilant. We need to be sure that we have borders and our borders are respected. So that's a concern for me a little bit, because we have Trudeau in government, and he may do the same thing that he did in 2018 and 17, and 15, when he said to these people, "You're welcome to Canada." I don't want that. We need to stop that. But overall, it's a very good news for us here in Canada.
Now, it seems to me that, just my look at it, my opinion, I guess, Max, I look at you and I look at Trump, and, I don't really see a far right extremist, a white nationalist, all the things that they call you. I mean, towards the end of the campaign down south of the border, they were actually calling him, he was a Nazi, he was a threat to democracy, and you get a lot of the same stuff on here up in Canada, and I think it's truly unfair. As a matter of fact, if anything, I see yourself, the PPC, and Trump is more of in a traditionalist vein. America first is it's not a new thing. America first, Canada first is not a new thing. I mean, when you look at Canada and you talk about wanting to have peace over war, that's kind of a traditional Canadian value, and Trump is addressing that in the same fashion. We used to be peacekeepers, and now it seems absolutely incredible to me that we're. I think last tally, I think we're up to $20 billion to the Ukraine in weapons and support, in all the things that we're giving them, and we're taking money away from our own military, which in my mind is kind of a dumb. But do you think Canada, under the Trudeau Liberals, has the capacity to actually revisit this traditionalist approach that Canada used to have? Does it have the capacity, the willpower to change its ways, to accommodate Trump, to look for a compromise? Do you think that possibility is even there?
I don't think so, with Trudeau right now in position as prime minister. But we have only 1 year before the next general election. It will be in October 2025. So we'll see. But you know what you said also about the Democrats and the mainstream media in the US. You're absolutely right, Russ. At the end of the campaign, they were calling names. They were saying that Trump is very dangerous for democracy, that is a fascist, and all that. But, it was all lies. And we know it, because imagine if Trump is Hitler, like they said before the election, and now Trump won the election, and you have Kamala Harris and the Democrats who said the day after the election that will be a peaceful transition. So they, why they're gonna do a peaceful transition to Hitler, to a guy that don't respect the democracy? We know that it was lie, because they will have that peaceful transition, and we need that, because he's not a fascist, because he's not Hitler. They were lying and lying, and here in Canada, our mainstream media use the same narrative. It is why in the polls in Canada, if you look at it before the election, a big majority of Canadians were influenced by the mainstream media, and they didn't want Trump to win. But that must end. We must speak about the truth and against lies, and that's what we are doing at the People's Party, telling the truth like it is, without being afraid to speak our mind.
Yeah, I really see that point, and I see I think you're right on, and I think it's going to be incredible to see. But I think with Trump coming to the fore, we're going to see issues that were unspeakable in Canada, things that ideas that you couldn't challenge coming up in Canada and having to be discussed because Trump is talking about them, and he is the United States. No matter what you think, I mean, it's a big powerful nation. It has an impact on Canada, and we can't avoid the debate anymore. For example, I'll give you one example that really gets me. Trump is coming out and he's saying free speech is of primary importance, and he's kind of put that in the center of his platform, and he's announced a whole bunch of initiatives where he's going to enact legislation where the government can't coerce the big tech companies to carry its message anymore. That's going to be he's going to revise Section 230 of the FCC Act. He's going to come up with a lot of initiatives that are going to restore free speech and allow people to have their say. Yeah. What's going to happen in Canada with I'm looking at Bill C-63, and that scares the heck out of me, Max, because if C-63 goes through, you're not even going to be able to think a bad thought without getting shoved or brought up before a tribunal and fined $70,000 or whatever. What is going to happen to Canadian legislation when all of this stuff gets discussed?
Yeah, and that's the good news, that all that will be discussed in the US, and also here the mainstream media will have to speak about it. And you're right about that. That was actually a condition why Robert F. Kennedy Jr. decided to be with Trump. He said, I have three priorities: free speech, make America healthy again, and ending the war in Ukraine. And Trump said, you're on board. I agree with you. So, being that battle against censorship in the US will have a big impact here. And now the discussion that we have in Canada, actually in Parliament right now, it's for more censorship with that bill and other bills. So as you know, as a party, we will repeal all that if these bills come into force. But they are not enforced right now. I hope they won't. But, we cannot trust Trudeau for that. But the fact that, we'll have more freedom of speech on social media with Trump, because we are on social media, YouTube, Facebook, Google, and he's able to influence these big tech corporations, and he will do it. That will give us more freedom here on social media. But if Trudeau is putting in force Bill 63, we won't be able to be free anymore, and that would be we will be like an authoritarian country. Yes. And I'll be the first one to be censored because I'm speaking the truth. So we don't want that to be part of our legislation, that Bill C-63. But also I must add about Trump and the fact that he's elected. another good news for Canadian consumers is the reopening of our free trade agreement with the US. As you know, that will have to happen before 2026, and we
Yes.
will have negotiation with Trump. And as you remember, the first negotiation, and I was the only national politician to say it, we must get rid of the cartel in dairy, poultry, and eggs. That's a cartel. They are fixing the price. Canadians are paying twice the price for poultry, milk, and eggs if you compare that with the US. All that must stop. But no, at the last negotiation, Trump wanted that to be abolished here in Canada, and Trudeau said no. But I can tell you, Russ, Trump will come back and he will ask Canadians to put that on the table and to end that cartel. And that time, Trudeau or Poilievre won't be able, because Trump is right. That will be good for Canadian consumers. They will be able to buy eggs and milks and cheese coming from other countries without having between 200 and 300% tariff. So that would be the end. That would be good for consumers, and it would be easy for them to just, go ahead with that, and actually having a more opening in the US market for other industries in Canada. So I believe that in 2026, our Canadians, when they're going to go and do their groceries, that will be cheaper. The milk, the poultry, and eggs would be cheaper, and they will be able to thank Donald Trump for that.
Well, that probably would be very attractive right now to Canadians, the way food inflation has really hit everybody's pocketbook. It's absolutely incredible that the prices are what they are. Now, you paid a pretty high price for your stance on supply management, Max. You lost. I think you lost the Conservative leadership bid as a result. You've taken a lot of hits over this, and it's really, it's kind of refreshing to see that you're sticking by your guns and you haven't changed your mind. No.
Oh, no, it's so important. And that's why, Russ, we're doing politics differently.
Yeah.
I like to say to people, there's a lot of Canadians who didn't vote at the last election. And usually when you don't vote, 40% of them is because you don't believe in these politicians. You say, oh, they're saying something today and they will do the opposite tomorrow. But we are different. Our platform is always the same. What I'm saying today, I said that 6 years ago, and that will be the same thing in 6 years. So people who don't trust these establishment politicians, I'm offering them an alternative.
Okay, what about we're talking about legislation here. What would you do with something like that's already embedded in the Canada's legislature scheme of things? I'm thinking of Bill C-16 that came out in 2016 that you originally voted for, by the way, and this is the Gender Expression and Identity Bill. We're seeing this was a touch point in American politics, and a lot of people. You talk about people not voting, but I think in the States, a lot of people did come out to vote on that issue in particular, because now we're seeing our kids are being indoctrinated in schools. We're seeing drag queen story hours. We're seeing parents don't have the right to have any knowledge of their kids making a transfer from one gender to the next. It's gotten absolutely crazy. What do you do with legislation like that?
Yes, you're right when you said that when I was a member of parliament for the Conservative Party of Canada, I did vote for that first bill, Bill C-16. And I said after that, that because reading the bill, it was, I said, oh, that's okay. But I had after that a discussion with Jordan Peterson. And that was the first time I had a discussion with him. And he said, Maxime, look at I don't know which clause in the bill, but when you read clause, I think it was 10 with the 20 all together, that would be the impact of the bill. People, you're gonna lose your freedom of speech. You're gonna be, they're gonna ask you to use pronouns and things like that. That was a huge debate, and actually, he was right. And I did make a mistake at that time. And so, the position of the People's Party is to repeal all that. And if you're there's no obligation for me to call you the name that you want to be called. That's my freedom of speech. And usually freedom of speech is there to protect the speeches that we don't like. You have freedom of speech to be able to say something that the other person won't like. That's why there's freedom of speech. So all that bill is going against freedom of speech. And so our position is clear about that. Let's repeal all that, and we must respect our constitution, because we have that in our constitution, and that must be the first right that we must have, is to be able to express what we want to say. And if another person, another Canadian don't like it, too bad for them.
How about this is a sticky wicket because you talk about the Constitution, Max, but in effect, what's happened was there was this cavalcade of support for this gender expression and identity bill. Everybody fell into place, and now the thing is embedded in our charter. It's now we have it's a charter right that is competing with free speech. How do you handle this? How do you deal with our law that's actually been written into all our human rights codes and the charter in the equality section? What do you do?
Yeah, that's you're speaking about also the bill C4,
Yes.
the bill for the transition, that every member of parliament in Ottawa, including all the conservatives,
They were very
voted.
glad about it. They clapped themselves on the back over that. Yeah.
Absolutely, they voted for that bill. So that bill, what that bill is doing, if you're a parent and you have, a child that is confused with his or her gender, you don't have the right to tell your child to accept his or her body. It's a criminal. You can go in jail for 5 years.
Yeah.
What you must do, you must take your kid and telling him, yes, you're a little boy, you may be a girl, it's okay. We're going to give you a therapy, hormones and all that, and we're going to mutilate your body, and that will be okay. That bill, it's going against biology. There's only two sexes and nobody can transition to another sex, but they voted for that. So yeah, we must repeal that. And actually now what you have boys that are saying that they're girls and they're playing in girls sport. Our position is clear about that. That must be illegal in this country. When you have sport for girls, it must be for girls only, and that's it. But the Charter of Rights, you're right, you have the Charter of Rights that is protecting our rights. That's a very nice document. But the challenge that we have politicians right now in Ottawa who don't follow our Charter of Rights. And the problem is our politicians. Look what happened during COVID-19. Yeah. I had the right to travel freely across this country without having a vaccine passport. But Trudeau and Poilievre said, no, Bernier, you cannot travel. You need to have your vaccine, the vaccine in brackets. You need to have that. That was against my freedom to travel freely across this country. So these politicians did not respect my Charter of Rights. And so we need to put in place politicians that will respect the Charter.
Now, as a matter of fact, you even went to jail for that, Max. I recall watching you get handcuffed, hands behind the back, handcuffed, and given the bum's rush into the slammer. I mean, absolutely incredible to see that in the Canada that I grew up in. It's just absolutely well, it's unbelievable. Actually, is what it is. But you mentioned, okay, we've got politicians that don't care about our charter rights, that have other priorities, and actually, we've seen that come out in a recent court case with. When Judge Mosley ruled against the Invocation of the Emergencies Act, and he said, "Hey, no, this is unreasonable. You abridged the charter rights of these individuals here." One of them, I had on an interview here on an in-hot, Eddie Cornell, Medal of Bravery winner that was made a claim in that case and won. But we also have we're supposed to have. Checks and balances. There's the legislature, there's the executive, there's the judicial. And I look at the judicial, and given your case, look at your case. the judicial side of things doesn't seem to be acting as a brake on excessive executive power at all. The judicial is going along with what the politicians come up with, and I think of your vaccine mandate case, your travel mandate case that you went all the way to the Supreme Court on, and basically got shut down because your argument was moot.
Yeah.
It no longer existed. We don't have to talk about it. What about our judiciary? What do you do with a judiciary that is that aligned with the executive? What has to be done there?
I'll give you another example of that. You're right. The case that I had to fight against the vaccine passport for Canadian travelers, didn't want to go ahead with that. They just said it's mute because, it's not enforced anymore. So it's like, you have somebody that's going to steal something and he's in front of the judge and in court, and he's saying, oh, Mr. Judge, I must not be guilty because I gave back that good that I stole, so I must not be guilty. That was crazy like that. But also another example of the judiciary system. I was in Manitoba. One of my supporters decided to do a rally and for the People's Party. And so he did a rally over there for the People's Party just before the election in 2021. And he had the tickets because it was illegal at that time to have rallies outside in Manitoba. But the week after, he went to another rally for the Black Lives Matter.
Oh,
and
yes.
And he was there with 10,000 people and nobody received the tickets. So he said, the tickets was against me, against my political views. And so he asked me if I want to be a witness there. And I was a witness, and he didn't win at the end, but I was a witness. I just want to let you know, when I had to tell my story, when you're in court, they said, stand up. What is your name? And I said, my name is Maxime Bernier. Can you spell your name? I said, yes. Maxime Bernier. And the third question was, what are your pronouns in court? And I looked at the judge.
Oh, yeah.
I said, what? Can you see that I'm a man? And they asked the question again, what are your pronouns? And I didn't answer that question, but the wokeism, the woke radical ideology is everywhere. So answering your question, what we can do for that, a little bit like in the US, when they are appointing a judge, that judge is going in front of the Congress and with a lot of questions from congressmen, and they all that is out there. They want to see who is that person. We don't do that in Canada. So next time we appoint a judge, we must have a parliamentary commission that will be out there and ask the questions about the vision of that judge, what he did in the past. And so we don't do that. And now Trudeau, what he's doing is appointing all the time when he can woke judge that are proud to be woke. So we need to stop that and change the appointment system in Canada.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. It's as you say, I think the last couple of appointments to the Supreme Court, for example, are specifically coming from certain communities within Canada, certain, I guess, marginalized or racialized, what they say, communities that have intersectionality, points or whatever they call them. But that is the the surest way to destroy an institution is to take a meritocracy away from it and have these DEI parameters that allow people to slip in. Now, I'm thinking about the military. I've got kind of a military background, Max, and I'm thinking about what's going on in the military. And I talk to a lot of military guys, and the guys that were the war fighters, they're not happy with this new set of priorities that are being advertised in the military. This wokeism. This I when I was when I was in the military, when I went to war, I flew under the Canadian flag. There was no rainbow flag there, and
Yeah.
we all united under one Canadian flag, and that's the way you know quite frankly we liked it because we were fighting for something that had purpose, that meant something to us. So this wokeism is just all over the place, like you say. It's destroying the country. And I look down south, and Trump, boy, you got to give him credit. I mean, well, he's like you. He's gonna stand up for what he believes in. You can take him to court. You can shoot bullets at him. You can do whatever you want to do, but he's not going to change his mind. He's going to lead, and he's going to lead America first. He's going to represent Americans. And this woke stuff and all the groups that are pushing it, deep state, deep administration groups that are pushing it, he says, a pox on you. Okay, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And he got a landslide victory. Like you say, all 7 swing states. I'm hearing today that he's picked up the House. He's got the Senate.
Good.
He's got the House. He's got a mandate. So
a big one.
You
A
have
big
to
one.
be pretty enthused by what's happened down south of the border.
Yeah. And speaking about our Canadian forces, you're absolutely right. Now it's a woke organization like the RCMP, and we must change that. You know, that DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, it's the opposite of our Western civilization values.
Yes.
And we must promote instead unity instead of diversity. We must promote equality of rights instead of equity. And we must promote, like you just said, meritocracy instead of inclusion. You know, nobody must have a job because of the color of their skin. They must be able to have a job because they are competent. That must be the only criteria. But that's not the case in our Canada today, at the federal level, in our government, but also, sadly, in private organizations and big corporations. They have a DEI department. All that must go away. And some of them understand that they're losing their consumers, with that ideology. The best example was Labatt Blue, or, they did something with that trans guy, and
yeah, Bud Light.
Bud Light. Okay, yeah, Bud Light. Yeah, they did, and they lost a lot of consumers. Great, and now more and more businesses, big businesses, understand that they must stop promote that radical ideology.
Well, it's getting dangerous, Max. I'm looking at the local level. I'm looking at local police forces allowing you talk about some protest is okay and other protest is bad. We're looking at pro-Hamas protesters. They have masks. They hide their identities. They run around threatening certain communities in Canada. They put bullets through schools and synagogues, and that's okay. And they don't even have a permit, I don't think, to have their little protest. But the police will just, if anything, protect them. But if you have another group of far-right extremists who are asking for a parent's right to say something in the school system, well, they're terrorists. They have to be sent off to the Huska. I'm looking at, especially in the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom is getting crazy now because they have basically Bill C-63 in their legislation right now, and they're packing people off to Belmarsh for saying things that are not within the narrative. And the people who are running around with masks on and destroying communities and obstructing traffic because they're praying in the streets, that's okay. That has to be protected. Though that's beyond dangerous. That is a recipe for destroying a society.
Absolutely, absolutely. But now, in UK, in France, in Europe, in US, in certain countries in South America, people, are ready for a change, and you can feel that sense of peaceful revolution. So because they are destroying our society. and more people understand now, and the credibility of the mainstream media is very low. People are taking their news with podcasts like yours and other places than the mainstream media. So I can see the future will be better for us, but I know that we will win. We have the right ideas, the right vision for this country. I just don't know when, but it will happen.
Yeah, I wanted to also touch upon one thing that I see as kind of a source for a lot of problems when you talk about generating wokeism and DEI, and that's the stuff that's coming out of our global institutions like the World Health Organization and the United Nations, and in particular, I see the thing that really kind of kicked everything off is Agenda 2030. Now, you said that it's PPC policy to walk away from uh, the climate accords, the Paris Agreement, as Trump is promising to do. Uh, is that just in that one area in 2030, or does it go beyond, say, into the WEF, the World Health Organization controls over our national sovereignty?
Everywhere. I said the UN is a dysfunctional organization, and so we will be with the UN when they will do something in line with our values, knowing that the UN is a socialist organization and sometimes they're communists, they're promoting what China wants. So we won't deal with them on a lot of subjects. First of all, yes, the World Health Organization, we don't want to deal with them. We have very competent doctors here in Canada. We don't need them to tell us what to do. So we won't participate in the World Health Organization. We won't sign the migration compact coming from the UN. For them, migration must be a right. Everybody must be able to go to another country. No, to be a Canadian for us, it's a privilege, and that's not a right. So we're gonna withdraw from the migration compact. Like we said, we will withdraw from the Paris Accord. So all these UN globalist agenda, we won't participate in that,
Okay, that I'm wondering. 2030 actually was signed in 2015, and it was signed by Harper's government. You were a cabinet minister at the time. Yeah, you were a cabinet minister at the time. What can you say about? Did you sign on to that? Did you go along with 2030 at the time?
No, we didn't have any debate at the cabinet table. We didn't have any debate. Harper, as the prime minister, decided to go in UN and sign that and deliver a speech. And he said, I will participate in that. But we, the Conservative Party or the executive, the minister, we didn't have any input in that. And actually, Harper was in line with that, and he wanted our country to be part of that. Same thing also with the World Economic Forum. He went to Davos and he praised the leader of the World Economic Forum. So for him, Harper was very proud to be a globalist, and that's the reality.
That is amazing. I had no idea that was just a kind of an edict from on high that the cabinet ministers had to go along with. I mean, something that big, an international treaty, you think that we'd have to have some, and here again, you have the American system where the Senate has to ratify something like that.
Yeah.
And here in Canada, we have a situation where, I mean, wow, if you have a majority government, you can operate as a dictatorship in Canada, given our system.
But not only a majority, we know now if we don't have the majority like Trudeau did, you build a coalition and you can do what you want. And Trudeau did that to us during COVID-19. Yeah. He didn't respect the Constitution, our rights, and he imposed a lot of draconian measures to us. And at that time, we can say that Trudeau was an authoritarian, and he was managing and the leader of an authoritarian government.
Yeah. Now, does the PPC have in his platform any kind of mediations or remedial actions that it can do to get the public, the actual citizen, through his political representative in Parliament, more power so that we can have some sort of a check on this this dictatorship that can and has arisen in Canada.
Yeah, maybe you're thinking about a kind of a recall legislation. I know
Something.
that, yeah, I know that there's a lot of discussion in Western Canada about that. The idea is, you elected your representative and he told you that he's going to do something and he's not delivering. And so with a petition, you can have a number of signatures and in a limit time. And if you have the right number in that time, can be 6 months or a year, I don't know, that you'll have a new election during the mandate, a new election, and people will be able to vote for another candidate than the representative that they voted for before. So
Yeah.
that's the idea of the recall legislation. So answering your questions, we don't have that in our platform, but I'm looking at it. It can be a good idea. But for us, we are saying the same thing for the last 6 years. Myself, our candidates, it's always the same platform. We don't change. What I said in 2019, I'm saying the same thing in 2024. So for sure, this is the platform. We don't change. We don't do any polling or focus group to know what to tell you, because we understand that the population, the majority of the population has been manipulated by the leftists and the mainstream media. So this is our vision. This is our platform. People can go on our website, peoplespartyofcanada.ca, click on platform and read it. We have 20 policies. That's the policies that we had in 2019 when we created the party. So that being said, you won't need a recall legislation, because that will be our goal, to do what we did, what we are telling people for the last 6 years.
No, you've been consistent, and I guess in closing, Max, I know you've got to go. In closing, I got to say I'm really looking forward to the debate that's going to hit Canada's shores as Trump starts pushing and prodding this way and that way, and our leaders try to come up with some ideas, and I'm looking forward to the PPC getting in there with its ideas to challenge some of the things we've been doing, and maybe get things moving in Canada. Is there anything that our membership, C3RF members, can do, those who are so inclined to support your efforts? Is there anything, last words you'd have for them?
Yeah, thanks, Russ. What I can say is, if you like our ideas, it's all about ideas, because we can change our country based on these values: individual freedom, personal responsibility, respect, and fairness. What I will ask you, speak to one of your colleagues. Don't start the conversation by saying, oh, do you know the PPC? The PPC is fighting for that. Because half of the population don't know that we exist. We are the new populist party in Canada. So if you have a discussion with a friend or a member of your family, have a discussion about what is happening in our country. Like, do you agree with that mass immigration? And that person will say no, because 70% of Canadians are saying we need to stop that. And after that, you tell them, do you know there's only one party that is fighting for a moratorium? That's the People's Party. So what I'm telling you, if you like what I'm saying, go on our website, read our policies, and after that, have a discussion on ideas. And at the end of that conversation, just said to that person, the only party that is fighting for that is the People's Party. So if you want changes in line with that, you must vote for what you believe. You'll have more chances to have what you want. So it's a grassroots movement. I'm doing my best. I'm with you at your podcast. I'm doing other podcasts and YouTubers, but we need more people. So don't hesitate. Go on the website, read our platform, and if you like it, speak about it. Help us to grow.
Okay. Well, thanks again, Max. Real pleasure to have you on board with us today, and all the best in your future endeavors and all those debates that are going to start happening like right now. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for that opportunity, Russ. Have a nice day. Stay strong and free.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.